Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And gosh, I feel like we had been talking about ice season and we are kind of, do I say back to a hiatus, back to waiting on first ice.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a crazy season depending on where you're at. And we are always interested in that. So let us know where you are and if you have ice or how much or whatever that looks like for you, because
Whoa.
Josh is playing with some things behind the scenes here. But bear with us because I'm sure you can. But let us know where you are and if you have ice and if you've been fishing or not and all of that. And this is not to push people to say that you should push the limits and make sure that you get out there, right? We're just asking, I imagine a lot of people at this point will say that they don't have ice because at this point, we went around and looked, but I'm not sure I would step on that ice that we saw.
Yeah, we checked it out. There was not a safe way to get out to the, thicker ice. But even the thicker ice is pretty crappy at this point. The water's gotten through all the cracks and just everything is just weak. So, we've been hearing reports from, our friend Ryan. He over by the Comstock, Wisconsin area. He said the ice is crappy over by Hayward. Our friend, the Wisconsin fisherman Kyle Tyree just posted. He was out checking and no dice for him either. So, yeah, looks like a pretty bleak weekend for a lot of us.
But it is an especially tough time of the year to be an ice fisherman, and I don't have to tell any of you about this because you guys know this, right? But this is the time of the year where you hear so many people, where's good ice? Where do I go? I just have to go far enough north, and it's interesting to hear the people who will just openly push it, and who cares, and the people who err on the side of safety. And it's hard to not be one or the other of those people. It's hard. There's almost no middle ground, So, I guess for us, we are going to go around and we are going to be checking ice later this weekend because, to be honest, temperatures are at least back into freezing. But I think this is the time of the year where it's especially important to come out with your spud bar again. We heard. Well, I guess this is something that I saw on Facebook, but there were other people who were going out and checking ice, and there was somebody who went and they had stood on, ice a little bit out from shore, and they were standing with their spud bar and they were turning it just back and forth. And even just doing that, not even smacking it on the ice, just turning it back and forth, the ice was slushy enough that the spud bar went straight through. And so, we hear all these things about, if you can stand on it, it's fine. Or, and I guess this is just me. I'm not trying to be lame or whatever, but it's never cool to be the first one, because the point about ice fishing is that you want to come back. So ultimately we are here to talk about ice fishing and not just the lame conditions, right? But I guess this is kind of, I don't know if I prepared Josh for this, right? No. But this is kind of a year in review show. Well, because to be honest, we were wondering if we were even going to make it to this show. I guess because it's the New Year's, it's the holidays, there's things going on. But this is kicking off actually a long weekend for us, so this is great. And so, we are going to talk about some of the things that went well this year and some of the things that we're still looking forward to with ice fishing. But I think one of the first places that we're going to start is, I guess, where we are at. So when you end up with conditions like we have, what do you do? And so what do I mean by that is, we at least got to get out onto some ice actually a few times this year already, which was great. But the funny thing about, I was going to say ice fishing, but maybe even open water, is to some extent, I always think that I'm set up, and then I get out there and I'm like, oh, I should change this. I should switch that. I should do, whatever those different things are. And this is the time of the year to now do that. So unfortunately, I hate to say it, this weekend is our to-do list, our bucket list to-do list. Bucket list makes it sound awesome, and to-do list makes it sound terrible, like chores, right? But one of the things that you're talking about is that we have a hub, and we have, I think it's even the clam lock, right? I'll throw that out there. But to put all those little pieces around the shack, so that as we do get back out there on ice, then it's easy to, I don't know, I guess do all that. So, but to have that moment when we're in our driveway and it's going to be 40 plus degrees tomorrow, gives us a really great time to work on things like that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when we bought, I think Clam came out with that hub clam lock system. Pretty neat, pretty nifty thing. I think we even have a cool tour at one of the shows in our YouTube or Facebook Expo archives, but they were the only ones at the time that had something commercially available like that. And then I think Eskimo also has a version out now, which is pretty cool. That there's more options becoming available. So yeah, we've been wanting to put that on our hub for, I don't know, a year or two now, and we just been too busy, or the weather's been too crappy. It's one of those things you don't think about all summer because it's like 90 degrees and you're gardening and on the boat and doing things, and then it's like, oh crap, I was going to do that when you pull all your stuff out. So yeah, it gives us a good chance to get caught up, do some house things as well. So
But as far as ice fishing goes, there's a lot of people out there that have things they got for Christmas. So things like Hyfax kits. So those little plastic pieces that go at the bottom of your sled. Some people say it makes
to do too.
Some people say it makes dragging them easier, and some people just say it makes it more durable. And I think, to be honest, it does like a smidge of both. So this is a perfect time of the year, though, to be doing that, because not only are we going to need our ice fishing gear out, right? But you're going to want that to be on there. And if it's a nice day, go out and do things like that. It's the perfect time to go look up a YouTube video. Hyfax kits are the perfect thing to look up a video about, because there's all kinds of tips that people have for putting them on. Really quick ones, I guess. We found out from watching videos, using, what do you call that? A heat gun on a pretty low heat, even maybe a hair dryer, depending on like what your wife or partner has. Yeah, but what you're going to do is like heat that up a little bit, and then as you go along, it makes that bend, or creating that bend, a lot easier, right? And so if you have some of these tasks that have been looming around, I hate to say this is the weekend to do it.
Well, and I mean, hate to say is it sucks that we can't be actively out there fishing, but I think the other thing, the unspoken thing a lot of times, unless it's early season, is ice anglers are modders. Like, we like to like make things our own. We like to craft up different things. And I think this is just a good time to know that some of us were lucky enough to get out and get a little bit of fishing done. And then we got those reminders, those gears started going in our heads again, going, oh, dang it, I was going to do this, or dang it, I was going to do that. As Emily's talking, I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, I want to put it like a removable pin in my HT hideout so I can pull the chair out. So it's not just bolted in there permanent like it's manufactured to. I want to put a pin in there so I can pull the seat out and it folds a little bit flatter. So that'll be cool. I can do that this weekend. Quick little project. Like Emily said, the Hyfax is a nice project, and definitely one, go watch a couple videos about. So yeah,
here's a project that's on your to-do list, and I hate to turn you into the world, right? But I'm interested if people have tips for this. In our truck bed, so we have the topper on it and everything. But one of the things that you were talking about wanting to do, okay, this made me think of it, because when we have 2 one-man shacks in the truck, I mean, it does fit because it's a truck, and that's great. But when you have the seats that are like bolted into the one man, and then it sits wonky, and then it's sideways, or like whatever. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think I put mine together slightly wrong. Because the shack works great, everything is awesome, but the seat in mine comes off, like it just like comes out, it's removable, and then you can put it right back in to that little pipe thing. It's great. And so when I pack up my sled, my one man, it sits a lot flatter than what Josh's does with that seat like bolted in there. So I'm sure there's a reason that it's bolted in, and please follow the instructions. Don't say Crappie Junction said to make it wrong and it's better, right? Because like, I don't want to be that person. But I mean, to some extent, what we are looking for is to have those two shacks sit nice in the car. So, or in the truck. So what Josh was talking about is building like a platform
Hey,
on the truck
Kenneth, it's a
bed.
good time to defrost your freezer, apparently.
But so that we could have
Hey,
like
Ray.
two levels, so we can slide one shack in and then the other on that top level. So I don't know if anyone has built anything like that. And I
Oh, yeah.
think that you were saying that there might even be some like positioning spots already built into the truck bed. So
Yeah,
that's
so
cool, but
so our Tacoma bed has some 2x4 spots molded into the truck bed liner, and I'm just thinking of running a couple 2x4s and just being able to throw it up on top there. And what Emily's talking about is me just shimming it up a little bit, so cutting the ends off the 2x4s and then sticking it underneath, so it makes it a little bit more, just makes it a tad bit higher. But no, that would be a good project also for this weekend, because we like to keep our stuff in the truck for weekend trips and stuff like that. So yeah, that might be a good thing to get done this weekend.
Another thing that I have lined up ready to go this weekend is going to be, honestly, if I open up my rod case, my liquid rod bag, I have a few rods that are separate from reels. And I know that a lot of times people have gear that sometimes, they use back and forth. Sometimes you use it open water, you use it ice as well. So this is the time to make sure that I'm getting distracted watching Josh.
Yes.
Yeah. But this is the time of the year to make sure that all your rods are ready, your tackles ready, like the little like tweezers and hemostats and things like that, right? Because once you hit the ice, we do want to hit the ground running. Um, get your gear ready is exactly right. Well, and that's the thing is because, okay, here's the other thing. Let's bring this up. I said this is going to be a show about what went well, and we haven't even talked about that yet, right? But here's something I guess that doesn't go well for me. I'm going to be honest. I'll put myself on the chopping block because here's something else I need tips about is I'm not good at traveling light for early ice. So there's always that thought of like, oh, take your bucket and take your rod and like go
No,
out there.
that's not how you work.
The problem is that I've learned to fish that first of all, I need like a jigging spoon and I need like a tungsten tiny thing set up, so like right there, I need at least two rods. And then I've got, okay, my whole hopper bucket, but then I need like my tackle kit and then I need my plastics and then I need, and have you read that book that's like, if you give a mouse a cookie and it's like, if you take Emily fishing, she's going to need a rod and then she's going to need a Vexilar and then she's going to end 15 things later. And I'm like, I should have just brought a sled. Right. So the thing is we run these whole hopper buckets so that the Vexilar is attached to the bucket is, I can put my stuff in there. It just doesn't, it never comes out that easy for me. So if anybody has like a great light setup, let me know what that looks like for you. Or maybe let me know, are you just all always bringing sleds out? Maybe it's just a lie. This whole travel light thing, people just have little sleds they always bring with them no matter what. Andy said he always has 200 pounds of gear along. Thank you. And I hate that because when it's early ice but I guess that's the thing, honestly, not to come back to this when ice is crappy, but I wait till 4 inches, like for real, real. And I'm just not that person that takes a risk because honestly, I have gone in, and I do have float suits, but that's not the point. That's crazy. So Jason, go to smaller boxes. Yeah, right. Bring less tackle. Oh yeah, my million plastics collection. Oh my goodness. Yeah, bring the kitchen sink. That's exactly the thing. That's just what happens in these instances. And I think that's why people get really excited for, I don't know, what's after late ice, mid ice. I'm not saying that we need to drive trucks out there and everything, but when you can at least have all of your stuff with you, it makes a big difference. Here's another perfect example. We were out when we did have ice. We were out on this lake, and we had never ice fished it before, and so we're kind of guessing based on where fish were in fall, where they would be now. We've had kind of mixed reactions from the fish, but overall mostly successful. And that's been really fun. But I always like to have my JT snare rods with me. This is not an advertisement. This is just for real because a lot of people, they like to do things like tip ups and set rods and tip downs and all of that stuff. Excuse me. But that's the thing is to have that snare rod with us, that there's just something about that, to have a really great sensitive rod, but to have a really great reel on it and to have it all packaged up with that. I want to call it a spring bobber, but it's like such a different setup than that. Like, don't get me wrong, spring bobbers are great and whatever, but this is like spring bobber gone crazy, right? The whole tip of the rod is like so super flexible. And what that allows you to do is set that out and spread out across the ice. And then what happens is as those fish move around, it helps you to stay on the school or maybe pinpoint them or just try things, spots that you hadn't yet, right? And so every time that we were out on this little lake, and I'm like, man, I really wish that I had the snare rod. So when we get to what I just jokingly called mid ice, right, that's going to be something that I'm really looking forward to bring out there. But hopefully it's not super freezing, because I like when the line's not freezing anyway.
I'm just I can't. I'm just messing around with this. This is like bugging the crap out of me. Why all of a sudden it's not working?
Josh is our behind the scenes technology guy, and I figure for the most part, as long as you can.
That's what it's gonna look like. I apologize if you're watching us. Just turn the screen off and you can listen.
You can listen. This is a great time to plug the fact that this is also turned into a podcast after each and every episode. Yeah. So if you miss it live here on Facebook or YouTube, you can always join us that way, and then you won't even know what we're talking about because our green screen is just funky tonight. That's all right. Troy is saying, I like to use a small backpack and a 5-gallon bucket, all my gear in my backpack, and my Vexlar in my bucket to carry my hand auger. Okay, great points, because my Vexlar is mounted to my bucket, and so that's already good to go. I have a backpack, and okay, here's the thing. Do you fish with your backpack on, Troy? I'm interested in that, because I find when I get out there, I can't even fish with gloves on, like too many obstructions and things. So I imagine maybe I just take my backpack off, set it on my bucket. Who knows? And then carrying the auger. That's why I bring Josh. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, I guess that is a really good point. Then I would have everything with me. So I just need to try it. But then I'd have to convert everything into my backpack instead of my rod case. That's what happens. See, now or instead of my tackle box, I'm like, I could just carry that.
Well, here's the deal: is you need to decide what you're gonna fish for that day, right? So you just need to make that decision, and you need to stick to your guns on that decision. And once you do that, that really narrows down the amount of stuff that you have to bring. And then you, like Jay said, that's exactly what I go to, Jay, is I take a couple of small boxes. Oh, that's representative samples. I know what body of water I'm fishing. I take just that select stuff and pray to God that stuff's working. The one thing I don't compromise on is my bajillion plastics, and so I do keep those. But the one thing Emily isn't talking about is that we have some tournament style hole hopper buckets. So our Vexlar is our bucket, so you can put all that stuff in there. Plus, you have a backpack, so you have a whole bucket worth of room with no Vexlar in it because it's on so it, and then you have a backpack that you can fill up. So I mean, my thing is the rod management at that point. Like, I have a hard time because I would really like to bring my Lakewood rod cases out because they fit all my rods, right? And then I can put one of each thing on each rod, and then that's done.
Then I'm going to bring other things.
Well, but I don't want to see. My problem is, especially when it's warm out, I don't like setting that on the ice, because that'll get frozen to the ice because it's fabric on the outside, which is fine.
Well, it's never like frozen.
No, but it gets wet, and then I have to dry it out, and it just is what it is. And that's just part of the gear. But I just bring a couple, like 3 rods, but then I have to like always be like carefully putting them in the bucket. And then I'm like always like looking back. Are they okay? Are they okay? You know, so it's like, that's my problem, is the rod management. The tackle stuff, that's just doing a little pre-planning, knowing where you're going to go for the day, and just like sticking it out.
I would just rather bring a tiny sled.
Well, and one thing we didn't have going for us was we didn't have our pickup all week for the last week and a half. So we didn't have the pickup. The pickup was in the shop, and so we were fishing out of a Ford Focus. So that was tough.
Whatever, we did awesome.
Yeah, we did fine.
The fish didn't even know.
But that's one of those things is that when you have a vehicle capacity that lends itself to holding gear, you can put more gear in there, and if you then take out whatever you need, and then if you want something different, bring out back the stuff that you don't aren't using, and then grab the stuff that you want. The only thing you're sacrificing then is time. So that's on that that's your choice.
Oh my gosh. Um, Gosh, okay. So I agree with what you're saying though about the rod management when you have like the whole hopper buckets and stuff,
Mhm.
because you were saying, oh, go species specific. And it's like, yeah, so let's talk about crappies, for example, and that's what I said earlier. They're either eating like a tungsten and a plastic that's like eensy weensy, this teeny big, or they're gonna eat like a big old spoon that you're jigging around down there. And so that's just something that's really, I guess, tough for me is I like to have both those different setups. Otherwise, I'm like tying back and forth, back and forth.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I'm just not the kind of person that uses like the little fast clips or speed clips or whatever you call those little things.
Yeah.
So if you are, shout that out because I'm interested in that, right? But me myself, I guess I just don't use those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use the speed clips very often, especially not on the tungsten. I use the snaps for when I'm using like some of the bigger baits for panfish, because I figure if they're already eating that size of bait or that type of action of bait, then they're not going to care about a small clip. They shouldn't.
Never
So
know. Never know with crappies or bluegills, right?
I would say the one exception for the speed clip would be a spoon.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that adds that much to a spoon. Um, and I think it lends itself well to that type of fastener.
Well, the
But
other thing that it does for a spoon, though, and you hear this a lot of times from like the pros and stuff, they'll say it's all about the action of the spoon. And so there's those people that take the line and they tie it right tight to that spoon. And fine, okay, cool, that probably catches fish. But there's something about the action when that spoon can swing more freely. That's what I always hear people using flips for. Okay.
yeah, I tie on most of my stuff.
Oh,
Just
and
depends on it.
yours is a
Just
loop knot.
what? Yeah, I like the loop knot. I tie that same knot summer, fall, winter, spring, doesn't matter. Um, but when I'm switching baits out a lot, like the little Euro tackle B vibes or stuff like that, want different colors quick, then that's where I have the snap.
Um, Oh gosh, Andrew, you're reminding me right now that I did want to watch that. And I'm so sorry that I didn't because I would probably love to address that right now. It sounded like a really controversial way that he wrote it. So I will report back.
Yeah,
I will
that'll
literally watch this and try to reply to your comment because I'm interested. If other people watched it, hit us up and let us know. Because I'm interested. I can't even comment on it because I haven't even watched it. I'm interested.
yeah, we'll take a look at it. I mean, that's right in my wheelhouse as a fisheries, tech, so or water quality tech, but I do fisheries during my job. So
I feel
yeah,
like we should
I'm
take
interested to
like a hiatus, like a break.
no,
What do
no,
you
we're not
call it?
we're
Like a
not
break
gonna
in
do
the
a
middle of the
watch
show.
party in
Go
the middle of
watch
the
it.
show. No.
Yeah, and then we'll come right back and we'll talk about it. That would be super funny.
No, we'll touch on that next time though.
But I think it is something that people are super excited about because he's had a lot of really interesting videos out. So I guess I'm interested to hear about this as well.
Hmm.
Great. As far as this season,
Hmm.
what else has gone well? Or I guess I said that we were going to talk about that. So I guess we haven't even started. What has gone well? Not what else.
I mean, I didn't. We went out a few times and it wasn't Fast and Furious, but I mean, I would say that yeah, it just the bite was good. We've been catching some great fish, and a little bit better than I had anticipated. Um, I mean, fish were where I thought they would be. I don't know what are you what are you trying
Well,
to
I have
pull
to
out of
say,
me
it's
here?
been a really interesting season so far when we did have
Yes.
ice. So even when there was ice that we could stand on, several inches thick and all of that, we had days where it was misting, raining, fog so hard, so much out there that, for example, I was wearing bibs, like normal winter, but with a raincoat. So, I mean, I guess, I would have been just as happy in my winter gear, but with the warm temperatures, I was able to really scale down those different layers. And it was fun to be able to, I guess, wear those different pieces together. So that's one thing that's gone really well. Um, yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna touch on Troy's question quick here. He brings up a question. He got the Revolution 5 HD, which is a great little camera, and he's interested in uh, travel case options. Troy, I will implore you to go to Harbor Freight and look at their little waterproof cases. I think they're like 15 or 20 bucks for a small one. I have one that's big enough to fit a Humminbird Helix 5. So and that would be about the size I would say for that Aquaview Revolution. Just has little pull pieces of foam in there that you can custom fit to your little camera. You could make little holes for all of your for the little weight that it comes with, for the little two little different brackets that you can attach to the camera. Yeah, that would be a great little travel case for that camera.
Well, and actually, a funny thing about that, he mentions not necessarily the one that hangs on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times people see like that black case. I think there's like yellow or blue piping around the outside, and it has like this long strap on it. People always like throw it around their neck or something because I don't know. It's not quite like a shoulder strap, right? But I would say if you have one of those, try wearing it around your waist like a belt. There's a clip on it, so it makes like snapping around you really, really easy. But then anytime you want, you can open it up right at your hip, take the camera out, or even kind of steady it there as you're throwing the camera down. So it's funny, when we got that case, it took me like a few years to figure that out. And I think one day I didn't have that many hands because talk about traveling light. I think that's what I was trying to do. My Aquavie made the cut, right? So I didn't want to carry it, and it was awkward and annoying around my neck. So if you do clip it around your waist, the size is really, really adjustable. It has a lot of different length there. And that's really a great way to use that.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about your rain suit and
Well, I'm just
all
talking
that.
about things that went well. That was a random one, but it's kind of a funny connection. I guess to some extent, we use the Aquaview a little bit, and that is helping us. That's something that's going well. One of the things that we did do a good job at, because we don't always, right, is we talk about using the summer to scout for winter. And we did. We were very mindful, and we had some spots that we wanted to come back to. But however, we had them marked. It was really fun to be able to confirm that with the camera. It makes me also think about kind of a funny example. We ran into some people out on the ice, and the guy actually kind of made a joke. Oh, I forgot my rod. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe he really did forget his rod. I don't know. But him and his buddy were out like checking ice and looking for things, since they had a graph and they had an auger and they were walking around drilling holes. The funny thing about this lake is that it is such a soft bottom that it reads often as like a double bottom, or like sometimes looks like weeds or like something funky, right? Until you really know what that bottom looks like, it can be hard to read even on a good graph, right? And so it was funny because these guys were walking around and they were like happy as could be and talking about how they forgot their rod, and like pointed out like all the weeds in the crib that are over there, and like, oh, you should go fish it. That's what they said to us. And it took us a really long time to figure out what they were talking about and what was going on, right? That their graph must have been double read, because where they were was too shallow for there to be a crib and or weeds or any of that, right? So but that's one of those situations where if you are questioning yourself, you think that you found a crib, you think that you found this, you think that you found that, you can you can turn, I think, into I know, right? And so, not saying that they would have had an aquaview if they forgot their rod, maybe they forgot their aquaview, right? But if they had had one to put down there, they would have right away seen like this is maybe just a really soft bottom. So, that's something that's been fun for winter. The other thing about the camera, not to keep talking about this, but the winter is a perfect time to be using it because when you put that camera down there, you don't have that boat swing, like that movement, the waves, anything. And so if you're doing things like looking at structure or looking at tree drops or whatever that is, then that aquaview. First of all, I've never gotten it stuck, and I've put it in some crazy brush in the river. But when you don't have that boat swing, when you can stand nice and still on the ice and put that camera down, it gives you just such a wide amount of control as far as the things that you're seeing and how you're using it. So that's a really fun thing. What a good Christmas gift.
Yeah, well, and something else that you should keep in mind if you guys are camera users, and you especially if you're dialing in a body of water, let's say you have a cabin on a lake or you just fish a local lake and that's the one that you fish, a camera is invaluable in the fact that you can bring it home and it's great outside, right? It's great to look at the stuff on the screen in real time. But I think the real value, at least for me, is the back end where you can bring that footage home. You can put it onto a bigger screen, like on your laptop or on your desktop, and you can go back and you can review those spots. And it has a timestamp on it, it has a date on it, and you can go back and review those spots, and you can actually see a little bit further in the water than you can outside just because of the screen size difference. And so you can see stuff that maybe you missed outside. And if you're fishing with it, you can actually see the reactions of the fish a lot better when you're not trying to fish and watch the camera, when you can just watch the camera. And it really helps you like dial in fishing with certain baits or fishing certain fish or fishing certain areas. It's a lot like going back and watching film, as like in high school or college when you were playing sports and you're watching film to get better. Same thing with this. It's a great tool out in the field, but it's just as good or better at home too. So don't forget to use that function, even if you're not posting it. A lot of times we don't have the time to get all that footage out, and we do a lot of just watching it. And maybe we should just put a compilation of just like cool aquaview footage, because there's some cool stuff that you do see, and you do lose track of it sometimes, but it's a really good learning tool.
It is a really good learning tool. I love the aquaview. I was just waiting to see if you had anything else to say. That was great. No, nothing. Okay. Okay. To be honest, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about all kinds of other things fishing related and things that are going well. And I was going to say I'm not, but we haven't had any like disasters yet this year. I know that there was one year that we were checking.
Yeah, we did. We forgot your rods. That was a disaster. Speaking of forgetting rods, because you needed your whole rod case, and then we took your rods out of the car and put them in your rod case, and then forgot to put the rod case in the car because we were using it for work. That was my bad.
We did need the car for work. So in all fairness, there was that. But the truck is back, and so I guess like we were saying, things that are going well. That is
checklist. I know, Jay.
But that's the thing. Okay, so there's like nothing sitting around our garage, right? And so that's why when there's like one thing sitting there, it's almost easy to overlook because you're like, oh yeah, and that one thing and nothing else. Cool, great, let's leave. And we were lucky that the spot that we were fishing was really close to our house. So honestly, It was not the end of the world, but it was a really foggy day, and that kind of was terrible. So, whatever.
I will say I started using. I picked up a pair of Predator light bibs. Just to have something just a little bit to bridge that gap between winter and fall. Because as much as I like my other ones, I just needed something a little bit lighter, and they've been good. I've enjoyed it. They're good set of bibs. Predator lights. Especially when it's 40 degrees out every time I go fishing in December.
At that point, you could almost wear like Denali bibs, right? Rain gear. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you could. Donnie, I feel like Donnie does that all the time. He fishes way up north in Minnesota. So we have to ask him about that one day, I guess, see how that goes. But I guess as far as other things, normally we have some pretty big trips booked for the year. And to be honest, I think as far as right now, we have a lot of time to be fishing around home. And that's going to be pretty nice because a lot of the water around us is new to us, at least for ice fishing. And it's fun because we've been able to bump into quite a few people on the water. There's quite a few fishermen like in our local area, and it's funny
Hmm.
because where we moved from, there wasn't. So that was actually a really nice thing to be able to see anglers. But it's also, I guess, more fun when you show up at a launch and then like nobody's already parked there, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward. If we ever get enough cold conditions, once we get to that 8 inches of ice and beyond, if we get there, I guess. I'd really like to get back into getting some camping done. That's a really fun thing to do on the weekends, and it's fun to have that amount of time, and you don't have to worry about getting everything packed up that first day. You can go and fish until it's too dark outside, and then go and fish some more in the house, and yeah, it's fun.
Well, and actually, it's funny that you bring that up because that's something that I actually I've been thinking about camping too, and I'm like, what do we need now to be prepared for later, right? And so one of the things I came up with is I think we had a carbon monoxide detector, but I'm not sure if we liked the one that we had. And part of what I guess I'm referring to is if you watch any of Clayton Schick's videos, so Clayton Schick Outdoors, I think last year he did, excuse me, a video that was all about carbon monoxide. And so he had taken some shacks and I think he set them up like in his driveway
Hmm.
and he put like different heaters and stuff in it. I mean, this is like a year ago, so it's a little bit vague in my mind. I know it's out there, but it's a really, really interesting video because he puts in the carbon monoxide detectors that show you like with the little meter on it with the numbers. And so he explains all of this and why you need that. And to be honest, it just is important to have that for fishing, for ice fishing, especially for camping if you're going to have a heater. And so a really informative video, but it really pushed me. I just went and ours will be delivered tomorrow. Yeah. But what I was going to say is Amazon has some really great prices on carbon monoxide detectors because one thing that happened to us is we had gone last year to like our local Menards or something. And I want to say all the carbon monoxide detectors were like $30 and $40. And I was like, what the heck? Can't you buy these things for like $5 and $10? And at our local store, we could not. So I don't know what the deal with that was. And I thought maybe my gauge was way off. But if you go on Amazon, I found them like considerably cheaper. So I would
Hmm,
definitely say that's a place to be.
nice.
Is there anything fishing wise that you wanted for Christmas that you did not get?
No, no, I don't think so. I didn't really ask for that much for Christmas. Um, it depends on how broad your definition of fishing is. Uh, you know, we were talking about possibly getting a piece of equipment for the lure lab that could make some fishing stuff. So maybe that in the near future.
We
We'll
were.
see. Yeah, we were. Well, I was.
Dun,
But
dun, dun.
no, I didn't really ask for that much for fishing wise, just because I feel like we're doing really well as far as just having what we need. Um, but I did get a fishing gift. I got a deeper sonar
Oh
Pro
yeah.
Plus. I forgot that you know I had put that on the list. For our family, they require us to do lists, and I'm really horrible at it. And so I've resorted to just making an Amazon list called Christmas list and inviting everybody to it. And so I just, if I see something cool that I don't necessarily want to get myself right now, then I just put it on that list. And if I don't know. It's like a grab bag of stuff. And some years I don't get anything, and some years I get a bunch of things, and it's never, you never know. But this year, deeper sonar. So that'll be cool to play around with. They have always looked really cool. One thing I told Emily is their parents live in a subdivision currently, and they all have like the settling ponds in there, and there's actually some pretty good bluegills and some bass in there. And so I'm gonna take one of our musky rods and just chuck that thing across that pond like 20 or 30 or 40 times, and you can map it. So I'm gonna see what all those people in Chicago think of me with a giant musky rod with a black tennis ball tied to the end. See if they know what I'm doing out there.
It's gonna look pretty funny.
Yeah,
There's no muskie in there, and that looks like you're trying to muskie fish.
probably.
That pond is the size of a muskie.
I wonder if somebody would call me into the DNR for that. I wouldn't get in trouble. I'm not fishing.
That's who knows.
That'd be funny.
Nobody down there is gonna do that. I don't think. To be honest, they're just gonna be like, that guy's not gonna catch anything with a bait that big. That's what they would say.
OJ, far from it. That's a whole different can of worms. There's types of fishing I haven't even gotten into yet. Carp fishing and cod fishing and all kinds of fishing.
I'm ready to go back saltwater fishing though.
We have salmon fishing that I haven't even tried yet, and that's right in our back door. Muskie fishing, I have a muskie rod.
Season's open until the 31st, he says.
That's
a lot of people have open water. Go and launch a boat right now. Dang.
Yeah, my coworker, his friend is a guide over on Green Bay, and he just put a 47 in the boat last weekend with my friend. And he was talking that he might just have his boat in until the 31st. That will be the latest muskie he's ever caught if he can get one. Right at the end of the season.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's really crazy. So as the season is hopefully growing closer again, what kinds of things are you doing different when we have second ice?
I'm not.
No. You're like, I'm just going to reload up the truck and bring all my stuff.
Yeah.
Forget about traveling light.
No, I don't think I would have anything different. I think I would probably pack that medium sports sled that we have, just because it's a little bit bigger, but it's not that much bulkier because it has shorter sides than the mini pro sled. But other than that, no, I think if the fish are hanging out where they're hanging out, I think we're doing good. I'd really like to I'd like to get onto a different body of water, and just try and do a different spot. But for now, I'll stick to the small stuff until we get enough ice.
I guess we have to. That's our only choice. Oh my goodness. We are less than 60 days out from the Wisconsin Fishing Expo.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ice Expo was awesome. There was a huge turnout. It was great. Saw tons of people, and the fun continues with the Open Water Expo. So we might start talking about that coming up here. Hopefully we're going to start talking about actually ice fishing coming up here, right? Get back on the ice. Other than that, what else do we have coming up?
Not much, I don't think. I don't, just fishing or doing fishing things around the house, redecorating. That's always what happens when you get stuck in the house too long. I'm like a feral cat. I need to get outside every once in a while, or things get redecorated in the house. So Troy's asking, do we ever tie or modify any of our ice jigs during this times like this with no ice? Yes and no, because I do that all year round. I am constantly tinkering around with our tackle, just seeing what different things do.
Well, and I'll just, I guess, explain a little bit more about that and not to assume things that you're doing, right? But I think the reason for this is because Josh can do things like tie up jigs, one or two in the evening, after work or even just with a little bit of time. And so it's like, yeah, with extra time, of course, that's a great option to do. But that's why, we start the show talking about things like, ooh, attaching Hyfax kits or like, modding your shack or this or that, because I think to some extent, when we have this extra time off, you can do some of these even bigger projects. So I do also love that example of, because if you have never tied up or modified any of your own jigs, and this is a perfect time, I guess, to use that time to learn about how to do that. So a lot of people, if you live close to like a Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, things like that. Nowadays, they have pretty half decent fly sections in it. You can at least get some different tying materials, get started if you want to go to a store and see that kind of stuff. But I think it doesn't even have to be that difficult. Josh is nodding his head. What do you have to say about that?
I would not go to Bass Pro. I would not go to Cabela's. And
If you have no
unless
idea
you
where to
want,
start, though,
if you have no idea where to start, just go on YouTube and type in tie a jig, and you'll get a gajillion videos, and you can watch them until you're sick of that. Local fly shops, Troy, I will say, are a great place to go get a
not
bunch of
everyone is so
tips.
blessed to have those.
Well, right, and they're great to get a bunch of tips, and they're great to grab some things here and there, especially some of the specialty stuff. I will say, raise right. Start at the dollar store. Start at Hobby Lobby. Start at Walmart, and just grab different foams. You can go into the kids section and grab some flip flops for $1, and there's a bunch of foam that you can make lures out of. There's all kinds of stuff. Look at it right here. Emily has this wire piece to some wine or something. She opened that. I could make lures out of that. So, I mean, there's just, there's like all kinds of stuff. You don't need specific things as far as like the tying materials. I will say that those small shops are great for special when you start looking at like specialty hooks. Like they have stuff called worm hooks that are kind of like squiggly. They have they have like uh different tungsten heads and stuff that you can tie on that you might not be able to get from Amazon or a local shop. So that kind of stuff when you get into it. But to start out, just grab first, all you need is some Aberdeen hooks and some split shots from your current box, and then just clamp that weight somewhere where if you want your action to be a little bit more horizontal, push that weight towards the middle of the hook. If you want it to be forward or backward heavy, you just move that weight, clamp it down, and just start tying over it. You can put I've even used like the fluffy stuff from milkweed seeds. You can pick all the seeds off of the fluffy stuff. That stuff works really good. Panfish love that, and it's like an off-white color, so that's a really cool medium that I haven't seen a lot of people use, but I've had a lot of good success on it. So there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I could sit here and talk about it all day long, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing if you do have, if you're not like constantly, if you're not constantly going to soccer practice or, sports practice or going to here and there after work, if you have an hour or two that you're winding down and you're sitting at the TV, you have an hour to sit down and tie stuff in front of the TV. So just add it to your current wind down time. And the only thing I will say is that have a sour cream or a whipped cream container on whatever you're tying on. I frequently tie on a TV tray. Drives Emily nuts. But when you're clipping and you're cutting and need a place for all those things, you can sweep it into your little container, and those tend to work pretty good. So that's yeah. Well, and Ray is a great he's a great resource. Get a hold of him. They Will you're fishing, they have a bunch of great stuff that they sell over there, and Ray's really good at tying stuff. I would say that I'm like mediocre. I don't spend a whole lot of my time. I like know a lot or a little bit about a lot of things. So I'm not an expert on any of the stuff that I do. I try my best to do it well, but so if you go on Facebook and you type in like fly tying groups, panfish fly tying or bass fly tying, they have these specialty groups, and these dudes are like making flies that look exactly like a wasp. With the legs and the antenna and the beady eyes and wings and that look like wings. And yeah, I don't do that stuff. I don't know how they do that. Not I could learn, but that's not why I like it. I like it to be functional. I like it to look nice. I like taking and doing fusions. Putting stuff like fly tying techniques into jig heads, or taking like jigging bait attributes and putting them towards crankbaits. Just putting different combinations of stuff together to see what sticks, and a lot of times it doesn't, and that's probably why all this stuff has already been invented. But it's fun for me. It's kind of like taking, like anything. People love taking cars apart. Somebody already thought of and built that car, but somebody just wants to know how all those parts go together, and they like putting all those parts back. That's the same thing with me and fishing stuff. So
I guess when we don't have ice, we have the time to do that.
oh, thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. I try my best. That's all you can do.
Oh my goodness. So we are here coming up on the end of the hour.
Yeah.
Were there any last second things that you were dying to talk about in this episode?
I never have last second things. I have like last hour things. I can talk. I can just sit here and talk and talk and talk. But I'm sure these lovely people have things they want to do.
Oh my goodness. Well, what we are going to do is take part of
One
this
last
weekend
chance.
and do, I don't know, at least the ice trekking that we can do around here. There's a lot of, I don't know, reports out that are like, I don't know, half done, or, only give some of the information or this or that. And so I'm not going to give you my fishing spots, right? But I'll tell you, if there's ice or what that looks like or how the shorelines are or all that.
Yeah.
Because we are going to be interested anyways. If you guys have different ice conditions, post that here because we're interested. But otherwise, I don't know what else.
Ray's asking if we have fishable ice.
Oh, the
That's a
last
negatory.
time, yeah, the last time that we saw it, not only were the shorelines
Junky.
really bad, yeah, but I think the ice itself was super
Take a
slushy.
spud bar and take some waders, because that's what you're going to need. And then you're going to want to just take those waders off and drive home, because it's not worth it. Wait, we'll get some ice. It'll turn cold here.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Cool. Well, what we're going to do is be lining up some guests for some upcoming shows here. Kicking off the new year, so it'll be great.
Yeah, season 4.
2024. Yeah, it's going to be a great year. But I guess this is what I always thank our guests. But you were my guest tonight, right? Thank you for being here. But to the people at home, thank you guys for being here, because that is always a huge part of the fun. And if you're watching and we're not live and you have questions or comments or things along the way, put it in that comment section. We'll still get back to you. Otherwise, we're looking forward to seeing you on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everyone.